Audrey Hepburn spent decades on screen as a picture of grace and poise, but off screen she carried wounds that never fully healed. Long before the awards and the adoring crowds, a series of losses in childhood shaped how she loved, and how easily she could be hurt. Late in her life, she finally opened up about the one romance she never got over. It wasn't either of her two marriages. It was a co-star she met early in her career, at a moment when circumstances made a lasting future together impossible. Hepburn's polished image gave little hint of how unstable her early years actually were. Her deepest wound had nothing to do with Hollywood romance. It started in childhood, with a parent who was supposed to protect her. She was born Audrey Kathleen Rustin on May 4th, 1929, in Brussels. Her mother, Baroness Ella van Heemstra, came from Dutch nobility, and her father, Joseph Rustin, was a British businessman. The family status meant a comfortable, well-traveled early childhood spent between Belgium, England, and the Netherlands, exposing young Audrey to different languages and cultures. That stability didn't last. In 1935, when Audrey was 6, her father left the family without warning. She never fully understood why, and the confusion stayed with her for the rest of her life. She later called it the most traumatic experience of her childhood, and those close to her believe it left her with a lasting fear of abandonment and a deep need for a stable, loving home, a need that would quietly steer many of her adult relationships. After the separation, her mother resettled her in the Netherlands and enrolled her in ballet lessons, which became an outlet for a child overwhelmed by circumstances she couldn't control. That fragile peace didn't survive the decade. When World War II began in 1939, her mother hoped the Netherlands would stay neutral and brought Audrey to Arnhem, a decision undone by the German invasion in May 1940. Audrey's English-sounding name suddenly made her a target, so she began going by Etta van Heemstra instead. The war brought devastating losses. In 1942, her uncle was executed by German forces in retaliation for resistance activity, pushing the family to relocate to nearby Velp. Audrey herself is believed to have taken part in the resistance in small ways, performing secret ballet recitals to raise funds and reportedly helping pass along messages. She also witnessed horrors that stayed with her, including watching Jewish families being marched to trains, among them a young boy she never forgot. By the winter of 1944, known as the Dutch Hunger Winter, food had become desperately scarce. Like many families, Audrey's household resorted to grinding tulip bulbs into flour. The prolonged malnutrition nearly killed her. She survived a serious illness after the war ended only because of penicillin. The war was over, but its damage lingered. The girl who had lost her father endured hunger and watched unspeakable cruelty had survived, but the experience shaped the woman she would become. Someone who, beneath the elegance and the famous smile, craved security and loyalty above almost everything else. When the war ended in 1945, Audrey was frail but determined. She and her mother moved to Amsterdam so she could pursue ballet seriously, while her mother took on domestic work to help make ends meet. A scholarship eventually brought Audrey to London to continue her training, but years of wartime malnutrition had permanently weakened her body. She was told she'd never become a prima ballerina, devastating news that, instead of ending her ambitions, redirected them. She began taking small stage and film roles while modeling on the side. Her breakthrough came almost by chance, while filming a minor picture in Monte Carlo. French author Colette spotted her and insisted she play the title role in the Broadway adaptation of Gigi. The part introduced her to American audiences and revealed a rare blend of elegance and vulnerability. Hollywood soon came calling, and Roman Holiday, opposite Gregory Peck, turned her into an overnight sensation and won her the Academy Award for Best Actress. The hits kept coming. Sabrina, Funny Face, War and Peace.
The Nun's Story, Breakfast at Tiffany's, My Fair Lady. She became a global icon whose style influenced fashion far beyond the movies. But behind the fame, the girl who'd watched her father disappear was still looking for someone who would stay. Hepburn's early relationships reflected what she wanted most: a stable home and family, not just romance. Her engagement to British businessman James Hansen looked promising at first, but as her acting career accelerated, she recognized that their two lives were pulling in opposite directions. Rather than commit to a marriage she suspected wouldn't hold together, she called off the engagement before the wedding. Soon after, she met actor-director Mel Ferrer at the London premiere of Roman Holiday. They married within a year in a quiet Swiss ceremony and went on to co-star in War and Peace. After several miscarriages, Audrey gave birth to their son, Sean, in 1960, and motherhood quickly became her top priority. She turned down or rearranged film work to spend time with him. But infidelity rumors on both sides eroded the marriage, and after 14 years together, Audrey and Ferrer divorced in 1968. She found new happiness with Italian psychiatrist Andrea Ditti, whom she met on a Mediterranean cruise. They married in 1969 and had a son, Luca, the following year. Audrey largely stepped back from acting to focus on raising her children. But reports of Ditti's affairs with younger women eventually became too much, and the couple divorced in 1981 after 12 years of marriage. Across these years, Hepburn was also linked to other men, including actor William Holden, whom she deeply admired but whose desire for a different kind of life clashed with her non-negotiable wish to have children. She had a connection with screenwriter Robert Anderson during a rocky stretch of her first marriage, and later grew close to actor Ben Gazzara while filming Bloodline. None of these relationships gave her the lasting security she was after. Then, in 1980, she met Dutch actor Robert Wolders. Unlike her previous relationships, this one came without headlines or pressure, just companionship and quiet understanding. Though they never married, those close to Audrey considered Wolders the partner who finally gave her peace. He stayed by her side when she was diagnosed with a rare abdominal cancer in the early 1990s, and he was holding her hand when she died in January 1993 at age 63. After a childhood defined by abandonment and an adulthood marked by disappointment, she'd finally found something close to unconditional love. Even so, the relationship that left the deepest mark on her had come decades earlier, with a father who left and, in a different way, with a co-star she met on the set of Sabrina. Years after Sabrina first paired Hepburn with William Holden, the two reunited in Paris for Paris When It Sizzles, a romantic comedy that looked effortless on screen but was anything but easy to make. The shoot was hit by constant rain, health problems, and mounting frustration, so much so that crew members nicknamed it Paris When It Drizzles. Reportedly, Hepburn's son Sean later said his mother wasn't especially fond of the experience, despite describing it more warmly in interviews at the time. Weather wasn't the biggest problem. Holden was in the middle of a difficult stretch personally and professionally, and his struggles with alcohol repeatedly disrupted filming. Crews sometimes waited on him through hangovers or bouts of poor health. At one point, he fell seriously ill, slowing production further, and near the end of the shoot, he crashed his car and was injured badly enough that parts of the script had to be rewritten around him. Despite the chaos, the film delivered some memorable touches, including a brief Marlene Dietrich cameo, an appearance by Tony Curtis, and playful nods to Hepburn's earlier films. Those problems were mild compared to what unfolded on Sabrina nearly a decade earlier. When Cary Grant turned down the role of Linus, Humphrey Bogart stepped in, and never seemed at ease with the material. He disliked the romantic comedy genre, resented director Billy Wilder's constant script rewrites, and reportedly grew impatient with Hepburn's more deliberate acting process.
H.